Hello and welcome back to my channel. This is Post Creature Pre-Dirt, which is like, I still haven't explained why the channel is called that. And honestly, I might never explain it because I might just change it to my name, which is probably be a little bit more consistent as far as branding goes. Aria, no. Sorry, the cat is trying to get the microphone wire. You want to sit right on top of my stuff? So yeah, it's been a while since I made a video. I can't even remember the last one. Oh yeah, I did like a character reveal of kind of like how I use celebrities and their acting to help me figure out my characters and figure out their voice and things like that. So it's been a while since I made a video. It's pretty hard for me to be consistent with this YouTube channel just because I have so much going on in my personal life and professional life. But I do want to make a point to touch in as often as I can, especially when I do feel like I have updates, and been really enjoying watching all of the AuthorTube 2026 goals and where people are kind of recapping their 2025. And I thought that I would love to make a video like that and also kind of give a little bit of an update on where I am with my book, because spoiler alert from my last video, I did not finish my draft by Christmas. Like, I don't even know what I was thinking that I could think that I could finish it that quickly. But yeah, it turns out the final stretch of this draft is far more difficult than I thought it was. And I feel like I have a habit of doing this where it's like, I get really excited and I feel like I'm like close to the finish line, but in reality, I'm like, it's like a false summit every single time. Like I've had false summit after false summit with this book. And I think that's probably just like an indication of my inexperience and just not knowing exactly how difficult this process really is. You know, I'm just humbled every month of my life with this book of how much more difficult it is than I thought it would be. And so, yeah, I'm like way farther behind than I thought I would be, but I still feel pretty confident that I'm going to be able to publish it this year. But let's go into my goals for 2026, and then I'll go into a little bit of an update on where I'm at. And maybe I'll touch a little bit also on how my 2025 went, because I started this channel in 2025, and it was in the middle of 2025 that I really figured out how to make this book work. And I had kind of given up on it at the beginning of the year. So I do kind of want to tell that story a little bit. But first, let's start with my goals for 2026. So I have them written here on my nice papier planner. This is not sponsored. I wish it was sponsored, but I just really earnestly love these planners. I get them every year. This is the like academic planner. I just love like really being able to like plan out my week this way. And I know it's kind of crazy looking. I decided to copy Brielle Wright's and create like a bingo card, which I've never done before, but I think it's actually pretty fun. And so I pasted that in here because I wanted to be able to sort of have access to it so I could constantly remind myself of these goals. And, you know, a lot of them are like more sort of my own personal scholarly pursuit, I guess you could call it. Some of them are like physical goals, and then the rest of them are writing goals. And so I'll just kind of go through like what I've got. I would say that the number one goal of this year is to publish book 1 of the Fall of Men trilogy that I've been writing. And I feel like this is actually pretty attainable. I know I was just saying that I'm like super far behind and things are taking a lot longer than I thought. One of the things that I would really like to do before I publish the first book, however, is I really want to write the first draft of book 2 and have a really solid outline of book 3. I mean, if I'm being honest, probably the ideal situation would be like a solid first draft or even second draft of book 2 and like a 0 draft of book 3. Before I publish the first one. That would be the ideal scenario. And so I'm actually kind of having my goal to publish book 1 be as far back as I need it to be. Like if I've published it on like December 31st, I think I would be happy so long as these other requirements were fulfilled. So that is the goal. I don't think it will take that long, but just given how long it's taken me to write this book, I do want to give myself a lot of extra time when it comes to drafting book 2. I will say though, I think that it's going to be a little bit easier going doing books 2 and 3, just because of the fact that like I've done so much heavy lifting on just like learning how to write, learning who these characters are, and like learning what the story is, because all the time as I'm drafting book 1, I'm like coming up with ideas and sort of like plotting, like putting these ideas out for book 2 and 3. So it's not like I'm starting from scratch or anything, but I think it's not like I'm starting from scratch, and like the characters, I feel like I've like really baked the characters. Like I know who they are. And so I do think that it'll be a little bit easier, but nothing about this process has been easy, and certainly not as easy as I thought it would be. And so I'm trying to be humble in the face of this creative project and allow it to take the time that it needs to take. But I do think that I want to have the goal of publishing book 1 this year. I think that that is actually quite achievable. And I still, I mean, like, again, I don't think I've ever mentioned this before here on the channel, but like the way that I consider my drafts is like the first draft that I wrote was really a 0 draft in my conception of it. And it was like around like 30,000 words, which is like not a draft. And then the second draft was like around 70,000 words, which still is not a complete draft. But I still count it as a second draft because I don't know. It doesn't feel correct to call this current draft that I'm working on, which is going to be the first draft that is like cover to cover, like a full readable book. It doesn't feel right to call that a first draft because it's like the third iteration of the story. So I call it a third draft. So, once I get this third draft done, I'm going to be sending that out to beta readers. And once I get the feedback, then I'll be doing draft 4. And hopefully at that point, I'll be pretty close to that being done. And so, yeah, so it doesn't seem like it's that far out of reach to at least finish the book. And then it's just a matter of like making sure that I feel like I have the story solid. And so, the other 2 goals being like, I want to have at least a really good plot. I want to have like at least 1 draft of book 2 and a really, really solid outline for book 3. So those are my 3 like big writing goals. I also have the goal of writing 3 essays for my Substack, and I really want to make this happen. I really struggle. I have no doubt that I'll be able to make this happen. But my problem is like my favorite essays that I write are the ones where I put a lot of effort and energy into researching, and I get kind of like obsessed. And that's what creates some of the best essays that I've written. But it's really, really hard for me to maintain the energy to finish those out. And so I have a lot of like almost completed essays that are just sort of sitting there waiting for me to finish them. And it frustrates me. And so I want to try to get some of those out and just like make that more of a priority. And then some other writing goals that I have are I want to get beta reader feedback. That's a big one. That's the thing that I think scares me the most right now, is knowing that that's really close down the pipeline. I'd really love to find or create a writing group of some kind. There's a few people that I know that I think I will be able to give my books to and have as critique partners, but I'd kind of like to formalize it a little bit more and like just know that like we're in a sort of that there's a group of us that are kind of like all working on creative projects, and we can share feedback and formalize it to the degree where it's like, if I have a question, I have someone that I can reach out to and ask for assistance, or like someone who knows my story and I can ask them questions about a plot point or something, and then vice versa, likewise with their stories. And so that's something that I'd like to sort of concretize this year, I think, just because I want to make sure that I'm being proactive about getting feedback, because there's something that's really scary about now, like looking at my manuscript and being like, oh my God, this is like 300 pages. And I don't know anyone other than myself who's read the whole thing. And there's something kind of nerve-wracking about being like, here you go, like, here's a 130,000 word book. Can you give me feedback on it? Like, I think it would just be nice to have a little bit more community and reciprocity. Like, I want to make sure that I'm being reciprocal as well. And so I'm hoping that I can find and create something like that this year. And then I have some reading goals as well. I don't have this listed on my bingo card because I don't really know how to like quantify it, but I do want to read more fiction this year. I have just like notoriously been really bad about reading fiction. I read a lot of nonfiction, but nonfiction books are oftentimes, I don't tend to finish them all the time. There are some where I just like devour it and I can't get enough. And then there are others where I'm kind of like, you get through the first like 10 chapters and you're like, okay, I get it. Like, I don't need to read more of this. And I keep them as more of like resources. But as far as like reading stories, I just feel like I don't make enough time for it. And so I'm really trying to make sure that that's a priority. And I have a lot of books that I'm working on like creating a sort of like a book club over on my Death in the Garden Substack. And maybe I should figure out a way to kind of like do a similar thing over here with this channel. The problem is like, I don't know exactly what that would look like. And it's already becoming unmanageable trying to do this book club with Death in the Garden with everything else that we have going on. But regardless, like I really have the goal to just prioritize reading and like be on my phone less and just like be dicking around on the internet less. I don't feel like I have like a scrolling problem necessarily, but like, you know, I have a like pop a YouTube video on and play solitaire kind of problem. And so that's, you know, a bit of an issue. But I really just want to like, and I feel like right now, especially with regards to my career, I feel like I have to have like a quantum leap in my own intellectual capacities right now. And so I need to be fueling my brain every single day with reading. Like I have to maintain a better like attention span. And so that's something that's definitely a goal. But the specific goals that I have here on my bingo card are, I want to read volume 1 of The Matter with Things by Iain McGilchrist. And I want to read volume 2. And these are big honkin' books. They're like 1,500 pages total between the 2 volumes. I also want to read volumes 1 and 2 of The Decline of the West by Oswald Spengler. I heard about these books recently and I was like, this sounds super, super interesting. And I also want to read Against the Machine by Paul Kingsnorth. And I want to read Ascent of Humanity by Charles Eisenstein. And I also want to read Voltaire's Bastards by John Ralston Saul. And all of these books are huge and very intimidating, and I'm not like putting a time crunch on any of these, but it's like if I could, I think I'd feel pretty proud of my reading progress this year if I was able to get through all of those, in addition to a bunch of other ones that I want to read too that are a little bit more easy and accessible. But I just want to like hold myself accountable to like getting through these volumes, because like I need to know this information for my life. And so it feels just like important for me it just feels important for me to have these goals and to really try to make them happen. And so, you know, I'll link below this book club that I'm kind of doing, and I'm not going to promise that I'm going to be super on top of it all the time. I am like a very kind of like, I don't want to say that I have a hard time kind of like keeping up with things, to be honest. And so I want to step into a little bit more of a like a responsible role, and just hold myself accountable to things. You know, I definitely feel like, you know, I don't know if people care, but like I'm going through my Saturn return right now, and I really am wanting to lean into that sort of structure of discipline and boundaries and limits. And, you know, figure out what my limits are and figure out what I can do within those limits. And so even with this book club, it's like I learned over December, like I couldn't really achieve the amount of reading that I had given to myself, like the assignment that I'd given myself. And it's like, okay, well, that's information. So now for this next book club that I'm going to do, it's going to be less. I'm going to give myself less of a lofty goal when it comes to the monthly reading goals and things like that. So yeah, anyway, those are my reading goals, and I will link those books below if you're curious to look into them. And then I have 2 goals that are associated with my other YouTube channel. There are 2 films that Jake and I are working on. The one that we're hoping to get out soonest is like an AI Luddite film that we're making, and we're going to be filming that this week and hopefully getting it out very soon. So that's one of the goals. We also have a video that we're making about the enclosure of the commons and all of the ways that like the commons are continuing to be enclosed under modernity, specifically through like environmentalism, which is like a little controversial, but nevertheless, that's a video that we're going to make. And then the other goal that I have here is to get 1,500 subscribers on YouTube. I'm just kind of like doubling what I have now. I think that that's like a pretty reasonable goal. Who knows though? Definitely not like my biggest priority in the world is to grow this channel, but I do want to keep being consistent with it because I do think it helps me stay accountable, and it's really fun for me to talk about my book. It's really fun to talk about all of these sorts of things. And I personally really, really enjoy being like a consumer of AuthorTube. And so it feels fun to kind of like have my own channel that is like somewhat contributing to the culture of AuthorTube, I guess. And so I want to keep doing it, but we'll see if it grows at all. It might not. And then, the last 3 are, let's see. Oh girl, why did I do this? That might not happen. So the last 4 are physical goals. And I don't think I've mentioned this ever on this channel, but my main hobby is I do aerials. So I do like aerial silks and hammock. long story short, I had to take like a 2-year hiatus from doing aerials. And before I had to take this 2-year hiatus, I had gotten to level 3 in both hammock and silks in my studio that I go to. And I've recently been able to come back because I can finally afford to be back. And then I had this injury that flared up really, really bad 2 years ago that sort of prevented me from going. And I was struggling to manage it for a really long time. And ultimately I figured out how to live with it. Yeah, so I was able to restart going to class back in November, and now I'm at level 2 in both of those classes. I'd like to get back to 3 in both hammock and silks, and then I'd also potentially like to try to get to silks 4. I don't know if that's going to be possible, but I will say that I think there's something about being injured sometimes that like requires you to exercise in ways that you wouldn't have before. And so I'm actually like really strong right now, and I'm getting better really. I'm getting better a lot faster than I was before I got hurt. So I could potentially see it happening. The problem is like we're gonna be moving ideally. Like if we can make things work, if everything falls into place, we're gonna be moving to Colorado in the summertime. So yeah, so I would only have like 5 or 6 months to be able to get into Silks 4, and that just might not be enough time. So that might be like a like a total impossible little spot on my bingo card. And the other goal is to do 15 pull-ups. So, you know, we'll see if I can do that. I feel like I will probably be able to get that if I can keep being consistent. I am currently able to do like 5 pretty easily, 7 if I'm having a really good day. And, you know, then after that, it's kind of like, you know, I'll do like 3 or something like that. But I feel like if I just kept being more consistent and I keep doing aerials, like, cause aerials is all strength, it's all upper body. So anyway, those are my goals for 2026. And so I will be very excited if I get these goals. But yeah, I am kind of going hard this year. Again, it's that sort of Saturn return thing. I feel like I want to put a lot on my plate because I really want to step up to the plate this year. And I feel like this is going to be a big year for me. I'm turning 30. And so it would be really cool if I could just be like, yeah, the year I turned 30 was like one of the biggest years of my life. And like I did so much and it just was very transformative. And I'm also aware that, you know, things can always go wrong and I might be biting off more than I can chew. I do have a tendency to do that, but I'm excited about these goals. And I feel like they're going to keep me on track to like being the person who I want to be. And so, yeah. So anyway, I hope that all of you are having a good New Year so far. I would love to know in the comments your New Year's goals or resolutions or maybe anti-goals. I don't know. Everybody seems to have a different sort of feeling about how they want to ring in the new year, but I'd love to hear what people are working on and what people are excited to accomplish in 2026. So feel free to leave a comment and I'll catch you in the next one.